All right, so here's my trade on Apple. I'm going to do sort of a trade review slash playbook on this setup and trade here. So basically, this is a daily breakout on Apple. Um, Broke out around 11 a.m. It had compressed, made an ascending triangle, about 60% of its current ATR. Um, and so what we noticed here was 150 recently has been inflection point. A lot of activity has been done at 150. However, yesterday we had a bit of a breakout to kind of get it away from 150 here. You can see it down here. Clear change in tape and clear discovery here with volume to get away from 150. And so then today it basically opened right there at this new value area and then compressed. So sort of a continuation of this move. However, this gave an entry and a setup that I am pretty familiar with. So I had tried to get in here on the break. It didn't work right away, so I did get out half of my risk. I risked down here. I just got out. I almost just got out even sooner because I really didn't like, if it didn't go, it wasn't ready yet. There was a bid that kept refreshing here at 152.20, and I told Tyler that I felt like that was maybe a good spot to get in, and it would have been here. But it's not like that was necessarily the spot where I felt like if this failed, it wouldn't be a breakout. I don't think that's the case, which in some instances, when we're doing range trades, etc., we have a really higher time frame level. We're basically saying, well, I'm going to hide behind this level. If this fails, I'm getting out because it means that the trade isn't working. Well, in this case, when you're dealing with a compression, you're dealing with more of moving averages and trend lines, so there's no exact level here. The only level that's pretty much exact is this top one because that one's staying the same. But the higher lows is what's fluctuating. So, even if I had gotten in, let me get my marker out here. Even if I had gotten in right here, right here or right here, it still could have gone up and then gone back down and gone down a bit further because this was still a compression. Basically, the low shouldn't go lower than this low, I guess. I mean, this was a higher low, so that could have been a bit alarming if it had gotten below that. But I do think that it still could have gone lower and still compressed. But what I would have liked is, when it got up to here, instead of getting in here, this is okay. I get out right away. And then I notice, hey, there's a bid that keeps refreshing 152.20. I'll put in a limit order, see if it gets hit, put my stop somewhere down here, maybe down here. And then if it would have gotten filled and would have held, that would have been great. And then if this would have happened, then I would have added in, moved my stop up, maybe added in again, or added in again above here, and would have gotten in a total of hopefully 2 to 4 units in this vicinity. But I think a limit order for an initial entry, and then I could even do a limit order as it breaks through as well. But I just feel like I'm just really enjoying limit orders because it's making me become more patient, because we really just, the timing of this stuff is really difficult. And this is such an easy trade, honestly, that you really could just wait for this to happen. And even if you kind of miss the beginning, even if you miss the initial entry and then the breakout entry, I mean, even an entry somewhere in here, if it's really what we think it is, it's most likely not going to come back too far, and then it's going to keep going. So it's just, there's a lot of room for error basically here. So that's why I think, either a limit order or, the limit order can follow the trend, or it can follow if there is a big bid. That's good reason to put a limit order there, or just a recent low. You can put a limit order there. Just try to get in before the initial break, because you can get wicked out with these. You can get tricked a bit. You could see some volume. It was almost testing it, and and then I use my other indicators like, okay, it is breaking out, new volume. I'm going to duplicate the ATR here and restart it at the point of the breakout. And sure enough, it did get about that high. That's not always perfect, but it's a good rule of thumb. And then you combine that with, well, the top of this new ATR is right around this 155 whole dollar psychological level. So that really lined up really well. So honestly, once this generally happened, this continued. I mean, this is where I just need to be like, well, it's just worth getting in and risking 2, 3, 4 units of my day. I mean, I've risked 10 units multiple times in the last few weeks on just stupid ass trades and just waste my money. Why not waste 4 units on something that I absolutely know? And I have done some breakouts like this recently that I have shown Tyler and Jay. They just weren't the best moving stocks. I think the price action was kind of sloppy. Like, it had some gaps. It was a lower volume, and so they weren't as positive about that setup. However, it did have the same idea, and so to me, it's just so easy for me to understand that I'm risking against this level. I'm risking against this triangle level, and so I can get as heavy as I can, as tight as I want, and just know that it's a long. As soon as it's above this level, as long as this this nice level is confirmed with continuation volume, it's pretty much a no-brainer here. So made about, 5 units on this. Honestly, only risked about a half a unit, so it's pretty pathetic here. I could have made 15, 20 units on it. So that's the goal, I guess. I'm going to go through and look at a few more breakouts from Apple, and then just kind of compare and contrast these and see how they look and the difference that they look here. So give me a second. Okay, so I quickly went through and found like 5 or 6 different quote-unquote daily breakouts, at least in my mind, but they're not perfect. But I just wanted to put 5 or 6 of them together and compare and contrast them, and look at some of the differences on sort of like the setup intraday, and then like the VPA profile and how they look different. Because so today, I mean, honestly, today pretty much checks all the boxes for the most part. I mean, you have a clear ascending triangle, which you have a clear level for it to break out of. Then after it does break out, you have the confirmation with continuation volume, which when that happens, I really should just be getting in, even if I'm chasing it or not, because sometimes it doesn't give a pullback like it didn't really here. Sometimes it does or doesn't, but no matter what, I should just be getting in really heavy, just risking under here with multiple units because of VPA. So this is sort of confirmation, but it's sort of after the fact. But I can see these happen in real time. I just don't know if the volume is really going to continue, but that's the whole chance we take. So basically, it hits enough of the boxes to make it an A+ setup. Good pattern, good level, and then VPA. I mean, maybe there could have been a slightly higher time frame level that would have made this more perfect. Like this was an even number, like this was 152.70 or something. Like if this was like the 150 level or something, or all-time high or something, that would make it a slightly better level. But this is definitely an A+. So then I'll move forward to looking at other breakouts, and I feel like I'm just like a repeating record because I've just made so many PowerPoints and playbooks on breakouts, and this is just sort of kind of pissing me off at this point. that I'm like still talking about them. But so here's an arrow at another daily breakout. So let's just look at what this one looked like, right? Because this one looks pretty similar to this one, pretty similar volume. Clearly, it cleared these recent days at this point. Yet, no, it wasn't at all-time high, but it was sort of compressing and stuck in a range here, and then it clearly broke out. So what did it look like on the intraday here for us to get long? And so here's what it looked like. You can see here that it is different. It's not a clear ascending triangle. There is some bit of a triangle, maybe right here and then right there. And then you say, well, was there VPA confirmation from this point? And I would say there was some volume, but you can see how it generally was decreasing, and with some minor pops as it was decreasing. So these minor pops in volume were during new high of days here and then here. That's where these pops were. But you can see how it wasn't near as clear as this one. You can just see how it was decreasing, volume was decreasing during this triangle, and then boom, it breaks out, volume kicks in, and sure, it does decrease, but it's generally overall much higher RVol. So it's almost like its own separate opening trade. So those are the differences with these two. And so then you say, well, but we might still like this. Do I still like this? I would say I do sort of like this for a high day. I mean, it only passes about 60% of its ATR. I'm assuming it had high RVol that day. I'm pretty sure it did. And then you get an entry either right here, or you get it somewhere generally in here. So that's why this it can't be perfect. This trend line can't be perfect. The idea is that we're going to get a new leg or two, and so the idea is to get in somewhere in here with the idea for that, and then we'd essentially add in right in there. But it's a little tricky in there. So then let's go to another one. And I look, and so for this one, I put daily levels at the sort of recent range that was created. This 149.75 was sort of the high range generally, and then this high level here was the highest point of all these days. Felt like once it passes this, it's for sure in discovery mode, and that was this level. So yeah. So here's another one. This is back in late August. I believe this was for all-time high here at this point. So, and you can see it was making sort of a ascending triangle on a higher time frame. It had popped above it and got below it, but still kept making higher lows. So this is a good sign. So we generally knew this was probably coming. And so what did it look like on an intraday here? So how would we have known how would we have known this was the day that it was going to break up? Because this is pretty far down here, like we would have probably preferred it to be closer up here for the breakout. So let's look over here, and you can see again it makes sort of an up, a down, an up, and then a high a day break with some sort of new volume. So there's just lots of like high of day breaks with some volume, but you can see here how it's not like a clear change in volume. It's basically just high volume the whole time, and then it does decrease with some pops as it breaks sort of high of day over and over. So this is again different. It's a different volume profile. It's just an overall up. It's almost like it just made up its mind right at the open or after about 10 minutes here. And so I marked these two daily levels, whole dollars, 150, 151, plus they were sort of the highs of these ranges. And you can see here that they would have worked pretty well. So let's go to another one. So this was one a little bit later. So the one we just did was right here. So you fast forward about a month. This one was just last month, mid-October. It had pulled back from the negative September month where we sold off quite a bit. Remember, the SPY turned back around, started making new highs again, and you could see that there was a clear sort of range, high range here at 145. So I put that level there, and it was making sort of a compression on the daily, kind of curling up against this. And then, so you got 145. So this is where 145 was, this daily level here. So I'm not really sure how I would have known until it got above here to go long. You can see here that RVOL wasn't anything spectacular. So it wasn't anything special. There isn't really a change in volume profile, only kind of this pop when it breaks high of day and sort of breaks that key level of 145. So you have a pretty good level of 145, maybe like a 9 out of 10 worth of a level, and then you have a little pop of volume. You don't have like a new volume profile here necessarily, so that's not amazing. But what is kind of cool and sort of tricky is that it pulls back, does a retest, and then it does get a slight new volume profile, hits a bid, and then goes into discovery again. So these are the days where we always wonder if we need to keep watching the stock, because there's always a potential for something new to kind of jump in and take it another leg up. But these are a little bit more rare, I think, for it to hit a whole new brand new bid like this. So for me, where I would have gotten in is probably just in here. I mean, it seems a little late, but for my A plus setup, this is the level that I know to risk against. It's a higher time frame level. I know if price gets below it, I think it's not a long anymore. And then I would have gotten long here, maybe partialed some, and then maybe tried to get in again on a new high with this new volume profile, knowing that this level held. So again, a different type of breakout, sort of similar, but sort of different. And then this one is another one in August, so it's not late August. We did the late August one two trades ago. This one's even sooner, or even earlier, mid-August. Nothing amazing, but just kind of like a basic breakout. You just see all these compression days, rangy days, and then you get a nice clean day. So what makes this day so special? Well, you look at the intraday time frame here. You look at the previous day. The high of that previous day is 146.50, and this is pretty nice because it does respect it. It bounces down. So it hits it, bounces down, comes up, and then eventually busts through it. And this is like it's a little range. So it's not necessarily an ascending triangle, but these are those ranges that we always talk about when we're in discovery and we want to get long or short and we want it to trend, but it's not giving us a signal yet. Well then we just wait, right? We get in long, we put a stop at low of day if we wanted to. That's one strategy. Or we wait till it hits down here, then we get in with a limit order and then maybe sell some right here, and then if it eventually pops, then we know, okay, now we're going long. So this is a pretty good one, honestly, because I think I generally like these little range discovery times because it gives us, the first 50 minutes, the first 20 minutes to just stay in a range, accumulate, prep, and it's really tight. You can see here it's only about 40% of its ATR. So it's pretty tight there. And then it's right up against yesterday's high, which is right here, right there, if you can see it. And with the idea that all these days are going to be broken. So, it's compressing. Hopefully it had decent RVOL in this day. I think it probably did. It probably had, like maybe 1.2. And then you get some volume profile pop. So then I maybe add in there, and then partial because you did get such a vertical move in 4 or 5 candles, and then it comes back perfectly retested. Hopefully I would try to get in long again, because really, well, I mean, there it's gone almost 1 ATR, um, and you still haven't broken sort of these top candles up here, but you can try it again, get long again, and then it does eventually break 147.72, and then you get another like kind of volume pop for high of day right there, and it even retests it and keeps going. So I think we're definitely seeing a lot of repetition here. High of day breaks with pops of volume, retests. Um, generally these are moving about 1.5 ATR, anywhere from 1 to 2 ATRs. Volume profile is giving you that confirmation here. Usually it breaks the previous day's high to give you that entry or to give you that initial volume pop. If it isn't yesterday's high, it's sort of a combination of the recent day's range, which we always talk about. But again, it's not. So this is a really good. This is a good one. Different. It's not the ascending triangle, but it is that range there. So, and I think I have one more here, hopefully. Okay, so I have two more. So what I did was I found. See how we just had a freaking up move the whole time in June, and I just wanted to do like sort of a breakout, and then like a few days later continuation breakout. So I did. So I did this day in mid-June. You can see here that it comes down underneath yesterday, the previous day's high of 127.44, comes under it, and then breaks up, and really doesn't give the pattern that I like. I mean, you could have really the best pattern here or setup is a failed back into the range, I think, right? Because probably this was sort of a range here, a bunch of different ranges. So you had a range, it almost is opening above it, it comes back into it, gets above, so you could either go long when it gets back above it, or you could go long then for extra confirmation once it gets above the high of day, that discovery range here. And then once it breaks through this 128.32, which was, I don't know what that is, crap. I think 128.32 was the final previous day's high of all these days. This was the highest point, this one right here. So once it breaks that, then you have extra confirmation. You don't get the volume change though, because volume kind of dies off. You almost just get a little bit of a pop for the new high of day, like kind of on those previous ones, and then maybe a little bit of a pop up here. So this is definitely not as pretty VPA wise. So this was sort of failed getting back into a range breakout. So it's opening above the range. It's already in the breakout mode essentially, gets pulled back in and then fails that, and then you go long. So our play is somewhere in here, and you can see here how this doesn't necessarily show a VPA profile of a breakout, just because of this kind of, the volume isn't amazing. And so then the next day, so 3 days later, because you had this move up, we just did 2 days of dojis and compression, and then this third day here. What did that day look like? Let's look at that here. And that was right here, which is a little bit better, or a little bit better for me in terms of kind of giving an ascending triangle. So again, higher lows, makes a top right here, fails it, but then continues, makes higher lows, pushes up against here, a bit more right here, fails it, and you could put in a limit order somewhere along this trend line, not exactly knowing where your stop. You don't necessarily know when it's wrong, but you do know that if it gets above here, you have a good potential move, and you get a decent amount of new VPA when it breaks high of day. This, I would say, is pretty similar to our breakout today on Apple in terms of just, you can see this compression only 50% of an ATR, makes a clear top here, not an amazing level, 130.83, not like a super perfect high whole dollar one, and then you get, just the VPA isn't as good as today's, but pretty decent because it does stay pretty high. So you get a nice huge leg up, pulls back, and then you get another leg up with continuation volume the whole time. Then you start to see some selling, a lot of red selling volume here that's starting to really cluster together, and then that gives you the pullback. But it never gets below this. That's why I love a legit breakout. If price comes, if you get your big moves, you got major legs this way, and if price comes back this quick, if it comes back by 12:30, I mean, I'm saying anything like 2 p.m. or earlier in the market, if it comes back that soon, that's when you do have a potential for another profit making trade, because a lot of times these will not be breached again, at least for today or a few days. These are the trades that we talk about, how they're potential swing entries. You hold on to some shares, and most likely in the next few days, price is going to be up here. And so when you get this move this fast and then it comes back down this fast, you have another legit trade entry. And whether this is just a half bounce or whatever, it still comes all the way back to your level, and to risk against this level right here. So that's pretty awesome. So this is a really good one. I think it has elements of all the other ones, the ascending triangle, the breakout, the pretty decent volume, nice moves up, and then a fast pullback, and then gives you a whole new trade later on. I mean, sure, you can try and short this if you want. I'm not sure what the levels are to short here. There might have been some levels in here to get that reverse, but in terms of just playing the breakout all day and being patient, you got an entry position somewhere in here, an add in here to get really heavy. This is your main trade. Hopefully you get a bit more here, and you're almost all out, probably somewhere up here, or then somewhere in here. You're all out, or you're holding some for another move. Pulls back, and then you get a whole nother trade here for that move. So you got, two trades, multiple entries there. So sorry I talked a lot, but just kind of wanted to go over that stuff. So thanks.